Welcome to Pyramid Parent Talk. I'm Lynn Farlow.
And I'm Karen Harper Royal.
We're parents with Pyramid Community Parent Resource Center, providing information and support to parents of children with special needs in New Orleans. Pyramid Community Parent Resource Center. At Pyramid Community Parent Resource Center, we provide one-to-one assistance, workshops on special education law, positive behavior support, and advocacy skills. You can reach us at the web at www.pyramidparentcenter.org or follow us on Twitter at PyramidCPRC, or you can call our helpline at 504-899-1505. Today joining us are special guests, Ms. Victoria Bryant and Ms. Raven Labiche of the Arc of St. Charles. We will be discussing state budget cuts for individuals with disabilities and the agencies that serve these individuals. If you want to join the discussion, please call us at 504-260-9265. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Raven.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us today. As I think about the state budget cuts and services, particularly waiver services, I think about the services that Jade receives. She receives her services through the Arc of St. Charles, and it's been an important piece in my life. I don't know where I would be without those services. I don't know where I would be without her direct support workers. So why don't you tell us a little bit about waiver services, the different kinds, and then we'll go into the budget cut.
Gladly. First, I'd like to say I'm so excited to be here. Thank you all for the invitation. And as we think about waiver services, people, maybe your audience, have no idea what waiver services are. And so, I think back on families becoming frustrated. Many of your audience may not know that people with disabilities were institutionalized. They were in developmental homes, and they weren't with their families. And so they said enough, and they were tired, and they were frustrated, and they began to fight. Change comes from frustration and complaints. And so our Congress listened to that, and the politicians and legislators, and Congress decided to add this to the Social Security Act, that they would allow for waivers. And there are multiple waivers out there, but one in particular that Jade is a part of, and that is the home and community-based waiver. And that waiver in particular allows an individual with a disability to receive services in their own home and in their community, wherewith they would be if they had no disability. They could go to church, and they could be a part of their community, and they could have a job, and they could have recreation, and they could live and not just exist. People were just existing before. And so these waivers have allowed for living. And so what do I mean by that? It's called Medicaid waiver, whereby the states have an option now to have a flexibility in the Medicaid programs. And so people are not just in a hospital or in a nursing home or in a developmental center. You have an option to say, no, I want to be home or in my community. And so, that's a little bit about how it came about. And there are various Medicaid waivers.
Okay. So what kind?
Okay, in particular.
Name some.
Okay, Children's Choice. And so that waiver is for children 3 to 18 years old, and it allows for various things in terms of home modifications. It allows for personal care attendant. It allows the family to go out and receive training. So if they want to learn more about this diagnosis that have been placed upon their child, they can go and actually attend a training for that.
And Jade was on the Children's Choice
That's
waiver.
why I mentioned that one first.
She was on that waiver while we were hoping she would get to the
big waiver, which is the now waiver.
The Cadillac.
The Cadillac of waivers, which is the New Opportunities waiver. And this waiver allows for everything. You can have the supports. And I shouldn't say everything, because there's a misunderstanding, and sometimes people walk into it thinking, okay, all of my needs will be met. No, but a lot of your needs will be met, and a lot of the challenges that families face in their homes can now be addressed. And so we're excited about the New Opportunities waiver. It allows for families to attend to other needs that they may have. It allows for families to have someone there taking care of their child in the midst of them having to work, which is important for families.
Absolutely.
You still have to work.
If you didn't have somebody
That's right.
helping you,
That's right.
then you would have
What would
to
you do? You couldn't stay
sacrifice
home. You
working.
couldn't provide for your family. You couldn't take care of that child. Financially, you couldn't do that. This new waivers opportunity allows for that. And so that's why most families want it. Children's choice waiver is limited. There's a cap on the budget. And so you may get 9 to 10 hours a week of services.
Right.
Whereas the new opportunities waiver allows for, again, I don't want to, misconstrue this. You can't get everything you want, but it allows to meet the needs that you have in your home.
Absolutely. When you're looking at the new opportunity waiver, somebody would come in your home and assess your situation, and that
Correct.
determines.
Correct. And so with the new opportunities waiver, of course, there's another entity called Supports Coordination, and it's their job to come in and access services, coordinate the care of your child. And so we work along with them. The Arc of St. Charles work along with that support coordinator to come into the home and determine what services are needed for that particular child. And so let's say your child, have a lot of maybe physical or behavioral challenges, which may require someone to be in your home longer. And so many families, may receive up to 16 hours a day of services, or some may receive services overnight. We have individuals that we provide 24-hour care to, where we're with them 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, because maybe there is no family, or if there is family is not equipped to provide the adequate services for that child or adult.
Raven, so if we have listeners out there that have no idea that these services were available to them, how would they go about accessing this?
Well, typically all the main entry unit into waiver services is through Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities, which a lot of places have now turned into human services authorities in different parishes across the state. So you would definitely access services through there first. Then you would receive an additional information from Statistical Resources that will send a packet out where you can select your support coordinator, as well as it will also tell you what waiver you qualify for. Once you call the Human Services Authority to access the services, they would be able to tell you the slots that's available with not the slots that's available, but where the population year that they're serving with each waiver service that's available.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
You keep using the word services. What kinds of things can people expect to see happening when someone starts to receive service? What does it look like in their home?
Okay, so what the services look like? I mentioned in the beginning existing and living. Mm-hmm. So you see the difference between the two. People were existing before, where they were in institutions and they were just laying in beds and having someone to come there to see about them, maybe bathe them, dress them, change them, all the typical daily living skills. Living in your home, that son or daughter can now be with their family members. They would be in a community wherewith they would live if they had no disability. So they get to go to school if that's if they're a child. But let's say this is an adult like Jade. So Jade DSW, which we call them direct service workers, they take Jade into the community to volunteer. They may take Jade to participate in other activities. I'm not sure in terms of if she's bowling or not, or doing any recreational activities. They may take her to eat lunch. They may take her shopping. Jade loves Janet Jackson music, so they get to go and I'm sure maybe purchase CDs. And then also they get to focus on some other areas that may be challenging for that particular individual. So the DSW have to go through a lot of intensive training to prepare them for working with that individual that they may be assigned to.
Years ago, and Lynn, I don't know if you even know this, but I had a brother, my brother Wesley, and he had something called Batten's disease. He was severely physically and mentally disabled, and he lived with us at home until he was about 13 or so. But he was blind. He couldn't walk. He had a feeding tube. He was very medically involved.
Yeah.
And it got so bad that we really couldn't take care of him. That's with a house full of siblings and mom and dad and
Understand.
everything. We couldn't take care of him, and he had to be placed in an institution. I don't think there were waiver services back then, but sounds like, based on what you're saying, that our family could have gotten some additional supports if there were waiver services, and we would not have had to place him in an institution.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because families had to fight to say we want our loved ones here with us and not there. But of course, in the beginning, years and years and years ago, of course, this great USFA may not even want to even go back to that time period where our loved ones with disabilities were placed in unacceptable places, I should say. But today, yes, the home and community-based waiver is available. And actually, the Social Security Act was amended with this home and community-based waiver option in 1983.
And so actually, when you think about the cost of having a person in a facility, it was a very nice facility. He was at Padua House over in Belchase.
Yes.
And we went to visit every Sunday. But the cost of placing him in that facility had to have been much more expensive than providing supports to us at home.
Well, we seem to think so, and that's why the fight was there. We seem to think, it should be less expensive serving someone in their home. Okay, you're not paying for the rent because people are already living there. Utilities, on the most part, sometimes you do have to cover that cost for another individual another time. Some individuals do have to cover that cost. But when we're looking at not covering the cost of a building,
that's huge.
That's huge.
So how would I know, Raven, you said that someone would contact the Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities about when should a parent start that process?
Well, our recommendation is upon onset. We tend to find a lot of parents get connected to early steps, and then sometimes there's the gap in services. So we recommend the moment a child is diagnosed with a developmental disability to start seeking out those supports, because we know there are waiting lists, and we do our best to make sure we're looking in the future of a child to make sure that they have those resources available, so when they become 15 and 16 and 20 and 21, that we have the supports that they need in order to reach their full potential and whatever their plans and goals are as life. So as early as possible, start connecting to the resources that can connect you to those services.
And if I can add, one of the challenges that we have found, there is a gap between early steps. Is that what you said, early steps?
Yes.
There is a gap. And then once that child is included in the school system, maybe families are not thinking about services at that time if they don't feel they need a certain type of support or assistance. But then once that young man or young lady becomes 18 or 19 or 20 and they're leaving the school system, then what? And then families are looking for our support, but yet they're not on that waiting list and they're not receiving that waiver and they have not been approved for those particular services. And then there's a lap where there's no services.
And when the one thing that I always say is schools fall very short on offering those resources. They should have that knowledge about what's out there for those families because they need it, and families need to request that of schools. When you have children with IEPs, that should be part of that. That should be part of the discussion when they're having IEPs. The other thing that I thought of as I was looking back with Jade's experience is if you are a parent and you know that you are on the waiting list, make sure that you check routinely to see where you are on that waiver list, and also if you move, make sure that you update your information. So those are very key things that a parent needs to stay up on.
Those are key points because families call in and make the referral for their loved one to be on the waiting list and may not call back. And one of the issues is if you move and they've mailed it to you, they don't have a new address. So you're now back to where you were from the beginning.
Correct.
And so they would classify you as non-interested or you rejected the waiver. And so that's another issue that's going on with the waiver list and this situation with many of the families of not realizing what this means for them in the future.
And let me point this out. Many families, they don't know when their kids are small, that they need these services. They don't quite understand that the older that their kids get, that, hey, this is going to be some services that I need. I need that additional support, particularly with children who have big behaviors.
Exactly.
See, a lot of the behavior the onset may be puberty, and they don't even know that that's coming down the pike.
Exactly.
And then that's when they realize, oh, I think I need this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you don't have that option.
We have a call. DJ?
I wanted to thank Victoria for coming on, and Raven as well. But I really wanted to ask about this because I saw where this group that went to Baton Rouge on Friday to deliver 10,000 letters to Mr. Jindal about him not wanting to expand Medicaid. But I wanted to ask about this $3.9 million that was cut out of the budget regarding the now waiver, and what really do they see as the impact that this is going to have on that service being provided?
Hi, this is Victoria. Yes, we definitely face the challenges every day of providing adequate services with the limited funding that we currently get. We have no time and place for cuts, and so we definitely look at that very closely in regards to how it would affect an agency like ours. And when they consider reducing a rate of already $2.36 for certain services per 15 minutes, when you look at reducing a rate that's so low already, what else can you provide that provider or fund that provider to provide adequate services? With the funds that we receive, we have to pay the direct service worker. We have to cover mileage for that person, documentation, training, supervision, out of $2.36 per 15 minutes, and yet there's a conversation of budget cuts. It infuriates us and it frustrates us because then we have to seek other avenues to determine how we're going to continue doing what we do and be the best at it and provide quality service to people that we support. So we're very passionate about that, and so it's important for our listening audience to contact your legislators. We vote on those politicians, but we don't hold them accountable to say this is what we're in need of. You cannot go back to the table and make a decision that would affect so many lives. And so we need to take that stand and make those phone calls. And so it's going to take all those letters and more and more and more for them to determine what it is that they can do to not cut the services for people with disabilities.
Well, I love to hear that kind of passion. I think that's what I agree that that's really what it's going to take. So, again, thank you for being here today because we really think that this is an important conversation to be having with the community in New Orleans. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, DJ.
Okay.
And in addition to that, so that $3.9 million, there would have been 200 additional slots for people.
And so this is the conversation. We're currently serving people with disabilities under the waiver that we have with those that are already approved. And cuts are coming to us as providers already. So there's two sides. There are those individuals sitting there waiting for services, but then there are those people that we're already serving, and the agencies are underfunded.
If you want to get in on this conversation, give us a call at 504-260-9265. Victoria, you're talking about the cuts. What does that look like in an agency like the Arc of St. Charles? Like in the real world, what is it? How do you really feel the pain of those cuts?
The pain of those cuts means that it's quality. Correct. It's not money. We're talking about quality of service for people with disabilities. And so when you place a dollar on providing quality of service to a person, there's
the quality changes. Something it's going to affect everything across the board. It's going to be a trickle-down effect, and I guess that's the that's the best way to explain it. That it's going to affect how you staff. It's going to affect how you provide the services in our home.
So if I'm a family member, what am I going to see? Because your budget was cut because of all of this.
Well, you're going to see reduced community interaction because we can't afford mileage.
Correct.
We can't afford them to transport that person into the community. You're looking at, and I want to say this number again, $2.36, $2.86 per 15 minutes, and the rates vary. But you're paying a direct service worker. This is the person that will implement the services to that particular loved one. You have to trust that you've hired the best person to go into that home. That's what hurts me the most. That's where my passion is. Am I sending the best person into that home to provide this service? Based upon the money, that's where money comes in. You want the best trained, qualified person. You're not totally getting that at $8 an hour.
Correct.
Because that's the starting rate.
Wow. Well, that's
that's
pretty
reality.
Serious.
That's
right,
reality.
Right. That's
so if you want to know how it affects us, that's reality. $8 an hour to start. These are single families, single women with children, trying to take care of a home and have a car, have this job to go to every day with insurance having to come out. That's the part that affects us because we're looking at quality of service and supports provided. So when they give those cuts like that, it's cutting what we could afford to pay someone to go into that home.
And many people with individuals with disabilities really depend on some consistency.
Exactly.
Does this also impact the ability to keep the same people employed?
Yes.
Of course, the turnover rate is so high, but we have a drive and we have a passion, and we're going to make it work. And so therefore we seek other avenues. And of course that's not what I'm here to talk about, because we're not going to let it not work at the Arc of St. Charles and not provide quality service to people with disabilities. And so we seek other avenues to generate additional funding.
Well, I was going to ask you that anyway.
Yeah.
So share some of what an agency like the ARC has to do.
Yeah.
To make up for the cuts.
So let me share this, because you all remembered I said the Social Security Act was amended to add this waiver, right?
Right.
So it was voted upon that said, and they said this was important, but yet now they're coming back to say we're not going to totally fund you. And so agencies like ours now have to go out into the community. So we're seeking United Way of St. Charles. They have been wonderful. They are supplementing the Valeros, the Women's Club, the St. Charles Parish Rotary, all of these other organizations. We have a fundraiser every year. Alligator Festival is something that happens with St. Charles Parish Rotary that I'm a part of, but that allows for me to have a voice in the community to say, listen, we are the Arc of St. Charles, and here we are. So that means I'm outside the agency networking to get other supports. And of course we're doing the fundraisers. We're writing grants. We're seeking every avenue we can to generate extra funding.
I was thinking about this earlier. So a person who is not on the non-waiver, not on Children's Choice, and they need services, what's available to them?
Well, if they lived in St. Charles Parish, if you live in St. Charles Parish, we have written a grant with the United Way and the United Way of St. Charles and the United Way of St. John to provide those supports to families, to give relief to them. So not only to children, but also to adults, and not only to adults, but also to our elderly loved ones who are also underserved.
Severely impacted by these cuts.
Underserved. And so we had to go out and pursue this ourselves. I'm so grateful for our board of directors who have my back and who support me. I'm so happy for the staff and the families that we have at the Arc of St. Charles, because every day we have our own expectations of how we're going to provide these services. And so we have realized that we cannot depend upon state and federal dollars, that we have to find a way on our own. And that's what we do.
Okay. Raven, you have anything to add to that?
It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, a lot of extra effort to make sure that we have the funding in order to provide extra supports. Just to piggyback off of what Victoria said, yes, it takes a united way. It takes a whole collaborative team effort at our agency to go out into the community and to let people know about the services. Because the thing about the services that we do have, if you don't have a need for those services, you may not seek out our agency. And it's very important to allow people to see that maybe you may not have a need right now, but you may have a need in the future, and to let people know that we are there in the parish, and we're around. We need your support because our services support the whole community.
So, St. John, the Ark of St. Charles, you know, all regions have to be creative in how they fund their agencies, and it's not just the ARCs. It's other provider agencies also that's feeling these cuts.
Correct.
Oh, there are many agencies whose doors have closed because they're
That's
not.
the end result.
That's the end result. Doors have been closed, or people reduce services, or they determine to not provide services under certain programs. Correct. Because there are various waivers. So if one waiver paid less money, then agencies may choose to not provide that particular waiver program. So going back to budget cuts, another way that it would impact agencies may choose to not provide that service.
Right.
Which is, so if that's a service for the elderly, or if that's a service for, in particular, children, or if that's a service for, in particular, individuals that may have behavioral challenges, they may say, well, that same dollar is given to me for someone who may not have those challenges, and so I can go over here and provide this service and not have to expend an extra cost.
Right. So, once again, what can families do to express that they have this need and that they don't appreciate these heavy cuts, because it seems like the disability community is the only ones that get these big
I know, it's
hits.
amazing that we're the ones that get the hits all the time, and we need to call the people we put in office. We need to hold them accountable. Their voice are the ones in the legislature making these decisions, and so we need to call them and hold them accountable. And so if we want change, we have to fight for change.
Absolutely. So, on that note, I'm so grateful that you and Raven came and talked to us and to the listeners out there about the budget cuts, and to explain the waiver services and how families can get access to them. On Tuesday, I wanted to let the listening audience know, on Tuesday, September 17th, we're conducting an advocacy training for any families that need that at the Rosa Keller Library, located at 4300 South Broad, from 10 to 3. Please call the Pyramid Helpline to register for the workshop. The number is 504-899-1505. And our next radio show is Tuesday, September 24th. And our special guest will be Lisa Delpit. She's the author of the book Multiplication. Multiplication is for White People. And we hope you tune in for a great show. And remember, you are never alone.